For a few minutes, I want to talk about the Inntopia Commerce API. So my official title, I'm actually not sure of half the time, but I do marketing, I do some strategy. But if you know me well, you know that I like to write code. I'm not very good at it, but I really enjoy it. And one of the things I love to hack on are APIs. By show of hands, who is familiar with what an API is? Okay, so we talked about APIs a little bit this morning, but let me give just a quick, rough idea of what an API is in the best plain English terms I can give you. An API is a way for two web servers to talk to each other about specific things. So that is the Inntopia server maybe, and then your website server or an app server. And what that means is that the server that holds the Inntopia platform can allow you to use some of that functionality somewhere else. That's all it means. And so some of the things that exist within the Inntopia Commerce API are the ability to create a cart for someone, right? They're not on the Inntopia system, they're maybe on your website, but you can create a cart for that person. You can pass dates and number of guests and get inventory back. You can get, you can pass things back to the API and say, hey, put this in this person's cart now. You can add lots of things to their cart. You can say, tell me what's in the cart. There are lots of things that exist within that Inntopia system that we sometimes think of as only there, but the API allows you to do those in other places. So part of my talk today for a minute is I just want to, kind of educate everyone on the Commerce API, make sure you know it's available, but also inspire you with a few of the projects I've seen in the last couple of years, which are honestly some of the best projects I've seen built on the API since I've been part of Inntopia. And the basis for this, at least for the ones I'm going to talk about today, is a trend that we've been talking about internally for a while, and it's part of this booking trends thing that Ben mentioned earlier. So about a year or so ago, I started an internal sort of monthly trends meeting, and everyone from engineering, partner services, sales, marketing, we got together and we just kind of shared what we were seeing out there in the market in terms of guest behavior or tech trends or resort behavior, all these different things, just to try to figure out what are the most important trends, what things do we need to really be talking about as we build out new features or work on even for my marketing campaigns or whatever. One of the things we talked about a lot was this gap that exists in hospitality between the marketing website that inspires people to do something and the commerce engine that converts them into customers. If you were to buy, let's say, New Balance shoes 15 years ago, you would have gone to New Balance's website, been totally inspired by these beautiful new, I don't know if they're really beautiful New Balance shoes, but you would have been inspired by New Balance shoes. You want to buy something, right? And where do you go? store.newbalance.com. Today, that's crazy in retail because they've all been able to move over to the single place where you're inspired by the product and then you buy the product or add it to your cart in the same place. And we're still not quite there as a, kind of in hospitality as a whole, but the Commerce API has let people bridge that gap, and that's what I want to talk about a little bit. The first one is Altera, and there is a customer story about this on our website if you want to check that out, but let me walk you through this quickly. Altera, all of their websites run on a content management system called Sitecore. Anybody use Sitecore by any chance? Sitecore is a pretty heavy-duty CMS. Most of us will run on things like WordPress or a specific thing to your industry. Sitecore is really, really powerful. And what they realize is that they have all this data in their CMS about specific products. Right? They have beautiful marketing images, beautifully written marketing copy, all this stuff. And what they did is just added a few more columns to that database so that they could store the IDs for each of those products that exist in the Inntopia system. And then when you were looking at products on these websites, they can call the API in real time and pull in all the stuff they need to show live rates and availability. And then, if you like it, you can add it to your cart again without leaving their website. So if you search for lodging on Metro Parks website, or if you go to a traditional sort of lodging page, you're not just looking at a list of hotels, you are looking at live rates and availability. You can put in dates and number of guests, and you will see that all as if you were searching on an e-commerce system. And I think the best example of this is on Stratton's mountain bike page. This is actually about a year old now, but The way it worked is, you go to a mountain bike page and you're going to look for lift tickets, and you're going to, they're going to want to sell you on lessons maybe and rentals. Traditionally, right, you've got a beautiful marketing page that sells you on all this stuff, and then there's a button that says shop now or buy now, right? But now, as you are going through and being inspired by all these pieces of what you need, you can click add to cart, add to cart, add to cart. And in the top right-hand corner, just like we're used to as consumers, right, it's adding all that stuff to their cart. So this is what I mean, right? They're taking the inventory that exists in the commerce system, pulling it out, and making it so that it's a seamless experience for the guests, so they can be inspired by stuff by the marketing and then convert on it right there. Another great example, I think, speaking of Camelback, is Camelback. Now, what Altera did was very sophisticated across dozens of resort websites. Camelback's is much more simple, but it's really, really well done. What they did is they just built a custom lodging search results page on their website. And this is using the API, right? They're just passing the number of guests, the dates, getting back the live ARI, and then they've created a custom way to display it just the way they want to on their website. So the question is, why would you do this instead of just like using the default e-com system? Well, they can do a lot of cool things that they couldn't do somewhere else. For example, they've added down at this bottom left-hand corner a widget that compares prices on the OTAs to the prices that you're seeing in your search results. So it's an important thing for them, right? That's a unique thing that Camelback needs to do, and they were able to do that because they had full control over the booking experience because they built it themselves using the Commerce API. Now, if you have built something or been involved in building a booking engine, you probably know that showing lodging search results is one thing. Building a checkout path is a very different thing. That's a big lift. All the error handling, the security, all that stuff needs to be really rock solid. What's cool about the Commerce API is that once you've built a cart using the API, you've sent all that data back to the Inntopia servers and said, here's this person's cart. You can actually let Inntopia handle the checkout instead of having to build that part yourself. So with Camelback, you have your sort of checkout page where it shows a summary of all your what's in your cart. And then if you click on this go to checkout button on the bottom right now, you're on camelbackresort.com. When you click on that, you go to inntopia.travel, and all the checkout is handled on our side. We handle all the error handling, the security, all that stuff. So it's a great way to be able to build that custom experience, only have to lift the part that you want to lift in order to create that unique kind of booking shopping experience that you want for your guests. And it should be noted that this is how Altera does it also. I think their long-term plan is for them to do all of it on their own, but they were able to ship a really cool thing pretty quickly because they let us handle all of the checkout and guest sign in and all that stuff on the other side. So those are two resort examples that I think are super cool. And you can go play with these, right? These are live. Go to any of the Altera websites and you can see these live. Camelback's website, likewise, you can check that out live. Let me share two more examples from two of our custom booking engine partners. The first is Spotlio. Did any of you book your lodging through Ghosto, the link that we had on our website? A handful of you. That is not our e-com. That is Spotlio's custom e-com interface, right? This is built using our API. This is built using our API, right? They built their own interface based on how, all software, at first said that all software is opinionated, right? You feel like the problem needs to be solved this way, and they felt that they could solve the problem this way, and they did, and it's a beautiful interface that works great. We have, I don't know, Albert, you can tell me, 15, 20 more, I'm taking the pictures, don't on this one, of our clients on Spotlio, and they've been doing this for a decade. Every year they launch new stuff, and what they're doing is they're taking the API functionality that they've used traditionally for the B2C side, like we've talked about with some of these other examples, and they've extended it to the B2B side for travel agents and tour operators. So now they're taking that same functionality using the API so that you can do that for all the folks who you work with who are booking vacations. But remember, I started talking about how we're trying to bridge the gap, where we see the trend of bridging the gap between marketing that inspires and commerce that converts. And something that I really think is cool that Spotlio is doing is instead of taking the marketing website and then trying to bring the e-com to it, they've learned a ton over the last decade building a really good e-com system, and now they're building marketing websites around that are built and optimized for conversion based on the things that they've learned building the e-commerce system. So, I mean, this is, when I think about all the cool things we could do on our system and the constraints that we have, I can sleep well at night because I know that cool people like Spotlio and another one I'll talk about here in a second are building this stuff because the API enables it. And if you have your own ideas, right, the API can let you do that too. So one more example, this is our newest custom booking engine partner in AZDS. And AZDS did this really, really well. So if you have been in the luxury hospitality space at all in the last number of years, you've probably heard of AZDS and their booking engine RevRaise. So as we got to know AZDS and they got to know us, I'm like, wait a second, RevRaise could be a multi-system, multi-product platform. RevRaise right now just works on a single system and it's incredibly good. It's a booking engine that's used by hundreds and hundreds of hotels and resorts, but it doesn't let you sell multiple products from multiple systems. And so what they did is they took all this experience building that high conversion website or booking engine and then built it on our API for multiple products. And there are three cool things I want to point out about their booking engine that I think are really impressive and have worked really well on the original RevRaise. The first is that we talked about bridging the gap between marketing and commerce. When this looks like a separate booking engine, but what happens is when you click book now on a website that is running this, instead of a little widget that pops up with dates, full screen widget pops up with a customizable season specific background image, calendar to pick the dates, all the stuff that you need. You can choose all the different products you're looking for. And it creates this beautiful custom booking experience without them ever leaving your website. And they can enter that funnel from wherever they are on your website, which I think is really smart. The second thing is when you do a search, you see your lodging results. And if this design looks somewhat familiar, it should, right? How many people right now have booked let's actually do a straw poll. How many people have booked something on Airbnb, VRBO, something like that in their life? Yeah, most of you. This is what it looks like. Millions and billions of people are using interfaces like this. This is becoming a guest expectation, something they're really comfortable with. So AZDS said, well, let's work with the expectations guests have and get that friction right out of the way. So when they start using this, it's really, really easy. And the second thing they've done is the same thing with all the other different product types that are allowing you to book through their system. So they said, okay, golf. I remember the meeting we had about golf, and they went out and looked at all the T-sheet systems and studied them and said, what are guests expecting to encounter when they book golf? And they based it on that. So they're working with the guest expectations, removing that friction as much as possible. So AZDS is our newest partner. We launched that 6 months ago, Derek, I think 5 months ago, something like that. And yeah, it's really cool to see what they've been able to do in a pretty short amount of time. So Commerce API, tons and tons of opportunities when you think about that ability to take some of that Inntopia Commerce functionality and just bring it into a different situation. Erica, I was thinking about you and your app when you were talking about it. It's that ability to just give the guest what you truly believe that they need based on your unique constraints, your unique products, your unique situation. So.